Hello, my name is Chris, and today I'd like to spend some time basically thinking out loud about something that's been on my mind a lot lately, which is the concept of enough. For the longest time in my life, I felt that I never had enough, that I could never be enough, that I could never even do enough. I was constantly driven by this insatiable need to do more, to do something else, to have something else, to be more, to be something else. Not realizing that as long as what I was after was more and something else, I was never going to get it, because as soon as I got it, there would always be more to get. As soon as I got it, there would always be something else to get. And I used to see this in a very positive way, and I would tell myself, well, this is just about, I'm just trying to live a meaningful life and use the limited time that I have wisely, because one day I'm going to die, so I need to experience everything and do all of the things. Not realizing that what was actually happening was that I was driving myself down a path of self-destructive behaviours, negative thoughts, and an abundance of anxiety, fear, and emptiness. Because what was really going on for me when I felt that I could never have, be, or do enough was that I was trying to find the thing that would heal the aching void within. This wasn't about more for more's sake. This wasn't about stockpiling and accumulating. It wasn't about greed. It was about being convinced that there was an emptiness within me, an aching void, and that I had to find the thing that healed the aching void, constantly looking outside of myself to find this thing. And believing that because I still had it, because there was still this aching void within, whatever I had, was, or did wasn't enough, so there had to be something else to go for. And it took me a long time to realise that there is no amount of things external from me in the world that are ever going to heal this aching void, because the aching void, the emptiness itself, was created by looking outside of myself in the first place and thinking that something out there was necessary in order to feel complete. I created my own aching void, not realizing that, being content and having enough was enough. What really started, I've been obsessed with this subject for a couple of weeks now, and what really sort of fired it off in my brain, 2 weeks ago I made the video about the links between depression and smoking. And if you watch that video, you'll have heard me talk about a study that was done in smokers with depression, which found that a cigarette could enhance a response to a positive trigger. So if something made somebody feel good, then a cigarette would enhance that. And I said, this makes sense to me if you put it in the context of the post-cigarette meal. No, that's not right at all, is it? The post-meal cigarette, sorry. The post-meal cigarette, you know what I mean? You have a really good meal, and it's really good and really satisfying, and it feels nice. And then you go outside and smoke the cigarette, and the cigarette is just, I think some of the best cigarettes, if there is such a thing, the best cigarettes I ever smoked were ones after a meal. You just kind of go, oh yeah, that's the stuff. But it wasn't the stuff at all. It was just a cigarette. That cigarette had no power until I gave it the power. And really, you know, the meal itself was enough. There was nothing in that cigarette. What the cigarette did was kill the trigger caused by the meal. What I mean is, if I had the meal, then the meal triggered desire for a cigarette. The cigarette quenched that desire. The cigarette was the response to the trigger. All it did was alleviate the uncomfortable symptoms caused by the meal. So there was nothing positive in the cigarette. The meal itself was enough. It's just because of the fact that I was a smoker, it, you know, gave me a trigger response. The cigarette was the response to the trigger. I'm not sure if I'm explaining this very well, but hopefully you totally understand what I'm saying. And I know today that the meal was absolutely enough, because since I've quit smoking, I can sit and eat and enjoy a meal, and it is enough. I am fully satisfied. I fully enjoyed it. There is nothing about the meal that can be enhanced by having a cigarette. I can think about those times when I did have the post-meal cigarette, and I'd be with people who didn't smoke, and they didn't need the cigarette. For them, the meal was enough. And if the cigarette was the thing that made that experience enough, then I would have only ever have needed one of them. You know, if it was a case that I had some kind of bar of like, here's not enough and here is absolutely maximum enough, you know, and the meal kind of was like 80% on this bar and then I needed 20%, well then my bar's full, then I no longer need any other cigarettes. That never happened. I would have the meal, I would have the cigarette, and then an hour, maybe not even an hour later, normally I'd have that post-meal cigarette, go back inside, and then when I was leaving the restaurant or whatever, go and have light up another cigarette on the way out. So there was never enough cigarettes in the world that would ever have been enough. There was never enough cigarettes in the world that would ever have made me content. There was never enough cigarettes in the world that would have healed the emptiness within. And the same, you know, not just with cigarettes. There is no amount of alcohol or food or pornography or money or anything that is ever going to fill an internal emptiness, because the internal emptiness for me was created by looking outside of myself in the first place and thinking, I don't have that, and therefore I don't have enough, and therefore I am not enough. And it's not just the things that we think of as negative that are never going to fill that aching void. It isn't just cigarettes, drugs, alcohol and pornography that's never going to do it. It's the things that we can think of as positive, goals, achievements, success. That if I just do enough goals, if I just achieve enough things, if I just have enough success, I'll be complete and content and everything will be right within my world. That never happens. Because as soon as, if we are always looking to these external goals, these external successes, then there's always something else to achieve. Well, I want to run a marathon, and then that will prove that I've got what it takes to run a marathon. So then I run a marathon, and now I've got to run an ultra marathon, which I didn't even know was a thing until a couple of years ago. And then I've got to run an ultra super duper special 8,000 mile marathon, and that will be enough. And then it's not enough, and now I've got to run to the frickin' moon. It just, where does it stop? Right? No amount of external things is going to heal the aching void. It's going to heal the emptiness, because the emptiness is created by looking outside of myself and going, I don't have that and I haven't done that, therefore I am incomplete, therefore I am not enough. But it's not true. None of us are born incomplete. None of us are born lacking. None of us are born not enough. We're all enough from the day we're born. No amount of external things are going to fulfill that. But I absolutely appreciate and totally resonate with people when they tell me, I feel this overwhelming compulsion to keep doing stuff, and I feel very anxious when I'm not doing something, because I'm aware of how short life is, and I'm aware of how little time there is, and I'm aware that one day I'm not going to be here. I was driven by that same fear for a very, very long time. Holy crap, one day I'm going to die. So before I die, I have to do all of the things, like all of them. And that will be, you know, I'll have made the most use out of my time. But then I think, well, when I get to my, you know, the end of my days, a long, long time from now, and, you know, somebody says, well, what did you do with your life? Then I can, you know, get out this list and go, well, here, I did all of the things. Look at all these things that I have done. Someone says, well, what was the best thing about it? The best thing was ticking all of these things off the list, which I don't think is the point. I think I was very much in the mindset of not necessarily, it wasn't necessarily that I wanted to do the things, it's that I wanted to have done them and be able to say, I have done this, and therefore I can tick it off my list. Not realizing that the experience itself was enough. You know, when I get to my deathbed, I'm sorry this is taking such a morbid turn, you know, and somebody says, well, what was the best thing about life? And I can say, well, it was the experiences that I was able to cherish and enjoy. It was being present in my own life, not continually looking ahead to something else. You know, I can think about, oh God, he's going to talk about running again. I know, right? The last marathon that I did was 2019. You know, when we talk about, I want to run a marathon, because I want the medal and I want to say I've run a marathon and I want to tick a marathon off my list, and I totally get that. But that means being focused on the finish line. It means being focused on having done the marathon. Now, to be honest with you, when I think about the last time I ran one, I don't really remember crossing the finish line. I know that it happened. I have, you know, photos of the moment, and I have a vague sense of what it looked like, but I don't really recall that moment of crossing over the finish line. What I think about when I think about that marathon is the experience leading up to it, the journey, the process. You know, I think about, I had my name on my running badge, and you'd run past and people would shout, "Go Chris!" And you go, "Yeah!" And then when we could still, I was going to say when we could still touch each other, when we could still make human contact, you know, we'd high five people, and, you know, and people would wave signs, and it was fun, and the atmosphere, and I remember all of that far more than I remember, you know, taking 2 steps over the finish line and going, I have done this. The experience itself is enough. And so too is whatever I do on any given day, that is enough. My hypnotherapy practice, I work with a lot of people who are just stressed and anxious and always feel, you know, like they can't switch off of an evening, and this affects their sleep because they're always thinking, oh my God, I've got to do more things. Not realizing that what they've done in that day is enough. You know, we talk about, maybe one idea is to just set 3 tasks for the day. if I only had today and I had to get stuff done, what would I need to do? Then do those 3 things. And then realize that once those 3 things are done, that is enough. Doesn't mean I can't do something else as well. It just means I have accomplished what I set out to accomplish today. And now, if I want to, I can relax. Yes, one day I am going to die and no longer be here and won't be able to get more stuff done, but that day is unlikely to be tomorrow. So for today, I can do my priorities and then I can relax without guilt. Because I realize that I have been enough this whole time. And that nothing I could possibly do could make me more enough. And I stop being driven like a car and start driving my own life. Because I realize it's fine to have goals. It's fine to want to do things with the time that I have on earth. But the goal isn't to have done the thing. The goal is to do the thing. And realize that the experience of life is enough. Hope that's been helpful. I hope it's given you something to think about, or at least that you don't feel like you've just wasted 20 minutes of your time. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you've liked this video, then please do consider subscribing or just hit the like button. It all helps me out, it really does. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Goodbye.